What's going on, everyone? So the other day I made a video diving into how Bradley Beal actually prefers a trade to the Los Angeles Lakers. There were those reports, but the Lakers are only interested in Bradley Beal if he was to be bought out. Well, since then, according to the Arizona Republic, that seems to be the first original source for this. There have been other people that have talked about it, but that seems to be where the source originated from, that they say that league sources with the Phoenix Suns told them that, hey, this is what's happening, that Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns are negotiating a buyout. Now, a couple things about that, right? One, Bradley Beal would have to take around close to $14 million less in order for the Phoenix Suns, because they basically want to do what happened with Damian Lillard, right? Buy him out and then stretch it, so waive and stretch him over 5 years is what the Phoenix Suns and Bradley Beal are negotiating right now. So that brings up a question that we'll address here in a moment. But essentially, Phoenix Suns, Bradley Beal would negotiate a buyout. Bradley Beal would take roughly $90 million, give or take, and then he would be waived and stretched over a 5-year span, just like the Milwaukee Bucks did with Damian Lillard. Now, the reason the Phoenix Suns would do this is because they're not going to be able to trade him. He has a no-trade clause. The preferred destination is the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't going to trade for him. And on top of that, right, you're talking about a situation where it's probably even worse than when you had Kevin Durant, right? Because Bradley Beal, Jalen Green, and Devin Booker are all two guards, right? At least with Kevin Durant, yeah, he was 7 feet and can slot in alongside. So they need to get off of Bradley Beal because it could pose an issue. So I do expect him to probably be bought out. More likely than not, it's probably not going to happen until after everything gets finalized with the Kevin Durant trade, which will be finalized on July 6th. Obviously, there's that big 7-teamer that's kind of going around. We'll see what happens in that regard. But that's kind of what the information is suggesting, that, hey, he's probably not going to get bought out until July 6th or after July 6th. Could happen sooner, but kind of that one thing at a time situation, right? Where Phoenix kind of tied up trying to navigate this big trade. So if he gets bought out, I am more than happy to have him on the Los Angeles Lakers, right? I talked about it. I don't want to see the Lakers go and trade for Bradley Beal, but if he was to be bought out, I would go and acquire him. I know a lot of people want Damian Lillard. The issue with Damian Lillard is he's not playing this year, right? Like, so many people are like, oh, imagine what Damian Lillard would be. You wouldn't be able to imagine that for another year, right? Best case scenario, maybe he comes around come playoff time, but at that point, you might as well not even bring him in, because either you're good enough to go win without him, or you're bad enough to where it's probably not even worth it. You might as well see what he can boast the following season. Maybe you bring him in, right, to see if you can kind of get a little bit of a boost, but he's not going to be working out with the team all season and, doing all these things. He's going to be recovering and rehabbing. So I just think Damian Lillard doesn't make sense, right? Damian Lillard wants to be a Laker next season, then sure, bring him in next season. But this season, I would go and get Bradley Beal if you can. Very low risk, high reward. The problem is would Bradley Beal be willing to take a vet minimum? Now, there are some reports that are saying that he would be willing to take a vet minimum because, he'd be making, $30 million a year, $25 million a year over the next, 5 years, $20 million a year over the next 5 years, so that he'd be willing to take a vet minimum, because most teams can only offer vet minimum. He wants to go to a contender. He doesn't want to go to like one of these bad teams that, yeah, they might have the full mid-level, but he doesn't want to be in a bad situation. He wants to go to a team where he has the opportunity to play a role and potentially win. All right. Now, his preferred destination via trade was the Lakers. Now, is his preferred destination via buyout the Lakers? It might be, but he's probably not going to start. Right? Where he might be able to go to another team and start. Problem is, like, what team would bring him in on a vet minimum in which he would start on? Right, that's the question. Like, he could go to Miami, but does he look at Miami as a contender with him, Tyler Hero, and Bam Adebayo? Also, Tyler Hero and Bradley Beal are kind of, want to do similar things, so I don't know how that works. Bradley Beal makes a ton of sense. He could be that bucket getter off the bench. I mean, I would start him at the 2 if I could, but you have Austin Reeves. So unless the Lakers sign Bradley Beal and then trade Austin Reeves, which I don't think is going to happen, then Bradley Beal in your starting lineup makes no sense, right? You can't go Luka, with a Austin Reeves and a Bradley Beal. It's not going to work. You're having the same issues. All three guys need the ball, and it's not counting LeBron James, and then the size and defense and all that. Like, it's be an absolute mess, right? At times you could have all three of them on the court. Like if Bradley Beal's coming off the bench, right? You could do different lineups during the regular season, kind of get different looks over the course to see which ones work come playoff time. But I like Bradley Beal as that bucket getter, a guy that can make some plays for himself, shoot over the top, score for others. He's a guy that I still believe in the right situation can get back to being that 23-5-5 guy. I think he is solely a product of his environment. Right? He went to a team that just didn't need him, didn't make sense, and he was the odd man out, right? Any kind of big threes, there's always that guy that has to sacrifice. But usually big threes that have success, guys play different positions, right? Like Chris Bosh and Kevin Love can play the 4 or the 5. Right? LeBron could play 1 through 5. Right? You have, Dwayne Wade, who is at the 2. You look at like Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, KG. Right? KG could play the 4, play the 5. Paul Pierce could play the 3, play the 4. Ray Allen could play the 2, play the 3. They all have different skill sets. They all work. Even Kevin Durant on the Golden State Warriors, so on and so forth. Right? You kind of go through history of these big threes or these deep teams that have a bunch of star power. They usually have guys that play different positions, can do different things on the basketball court, but at the end of the day, one of them has to sacrifice more than anyone else. Bradley Beal would have been the one that would have had to sacrifice more than anyone else, and on top of that, he just doesn't fit. He's the same player as Devin Booker, right? So again, he's not good enough as a playmaker to be your point guard. He's not big enough to slot in and play your 3, right? He's, 6'4", right? So, but he is a guy that I think would bring a ton of value. Lakers had one of the worst benches in all of basketball. Bradley Beal by himself might make the Lakers one of the better benches, right? It's just based on utilization and how you kind of operate him in a role. I would look for him to kind of be aggressive. Like, hey, go out there and just be Bradley Beal. When you're out there on the court, don't worry about anything else. Be Bradley Beal. Go be that bucket getter, be aggressive, let the defense come to you and kind of make your plays and, distribute the basketball. Yeah, we want you to play within the offense. We want you to, be a swing man at times. But when you're out there, we're looking for you to be aggressive. We're looking for you to score the basketball off the bench, right? And he still can play some defense. Right? He'd be one of our better guard defenders. And so, again, he's a guy that can do multiple things out there on the basketball court. He's a guy that, can win you games if, LeBron or Luka or even an Austin Reeves gets the night off. You're adding in another 23 to 25 point a game night guy that could easily turn it back on. But it also boils down to a couple things. One, again, is Bradley Beal willing to do that? 2, does he look at it as like, I'm taking, $13.8 million less, so I want the full mid-level exception, and then he ends up going somewhere? Or does he look at it as like, no, I'll just, I'll take what I can get, but I want to go to the situation that I want to go to? Because Bradley Beal's been linked to the Lakers since he was a Wizard, right? Like, and he's supposedly wanted to go to the Lakers since he was a Wizard. So this would be his chance if he was to want to do that, right? Like, you go to the Lakers, you play a role, but he's also got to keep in mind, you're not going to be playing the role that you'd be playing elsewhere. You're not going to be playing the Washington Wizards role. You're going to be playing a role on a team that has championship aspirations, that's trying to come in. You're going to have to play, that sixth man role. If, changes happen later on down the line, then changes happen later on down the line. It could also, good thing about Bradley Beal, could also give the Lakers Austin Reeves insurance, right? So if Austin Reeves, one, you can look to trade him, or if you do end up trading him, then you have a guy in Bradley Beal that can step in and kind of fill that role. But also, what if Austin Reeves ends up leaving in the offseason? Right? What if, it doesn't make sense for the Lakers to pay Austin Reeves $40 or $50 million a year like he can get. Right? So if he's not willing to take 30 or 35 million, something like that, do the Lakers even sign him to a new contract, or do they work out a sign and trade? And then you might lose Austin Reeves. Well, at least you can offset that with a Bradley Beal who you're getting on a cheaper contract and getting, kind of the value contract that you were getting on an Austin Reeves. Right? So I think that even, and it might make the Lakers be more willing if push comes to shove. Look, I believe the Lakers are going to try to keep Austin Reeves regardless. I'm not saying like, get Bradley Beal and now this means the Lakers are going to necessarily trade Austin Reeves. It could be. I think it's definitely an option. And if you're the Lakers, you're more comfortable now making that move and stuff. The only problem with Bradley Beal is just health, right? But if he's not your main guy, you can kind of offset him playing, 55 games a season, right? Like, you can kind of balance that out and kind of keep his minutes low and all that stuff. That's why I kind of like him in the sixth man role, because if he does miss 30 games, you can live with it because you have your main 5, right? And you just need Bradley Beal healthy come playoff time, because he can be the difference in winning a game or even maybe a series, right? But I do think that Bradley Beal would give the Lakers a little more it would just give them insurance, right? Where, Lakers right now, if Austin Reeves wants $50 million, you're giving him $50 million, right? Because you can't lose him for nothing. He's your best trade asset, best tradable player, but you also might not be able to trade him at $50 million, right? Now, maybe you work out a sign and trade, but if you have Bradley Beal and Bradley Beal's willing to commit for, multiple years, he's 32, right? So, you figure at least 3 more years you'd have him, right? You can kind of keep him around during that 2027 lineup, right? So sign him to a 2-year deal, right? Now he's locked into the 2027 lineup. And then, if you wanted to, you could go trade Austin Reeves, maybe get some assets and some picks and stuff for a big splash, a big trade or something, or maybe that's how you get your star, right? Maybe, Giannis becomes available next offseason and you're trading, sign and trade Austin Reeves and adding other players and picks and whatever else, right? Maybe you're turning a couple guys into pick. We'll see, right? But it just gives the Lakers a little more, if you do need to get off Austin Reeves, if you don't want to pay that $50 million, it's like, it's okay. We can go turn him into assets. We got Bradley Beal that can step into that 2-guard role alongside Luka and LeBron James, and then ride that out for a year. If LeBron retires, that's even better. Then you free up a bunch of cap space, right? And then you have, Luka, Bradley Beal, DeAndre Ayton, and then you're kind of filling in the rest. I just think it'd be a good position for the Lakers. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out as we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.